Namaste, welcome everyone. My name is Kassandra and I'm going to be taking you through an hour-long beginner yoga class. So this is a vinyasa styled practice which will focus on strength, flexibility, and balance. So even though it's a beginner class, there are going to be some challenges in this practice, but we are going to make them as accessible as possible. You don't need any props, and we are going to begin sitting. So in any way that is comfortable for your hips and lower back, try to find a nice amount of length through your spine and see if you can lift your shoulders up and roll them all the way back down. So sliding your shoulder blades down your back. Beginning first with this basic posture, you want to feel your lower abdominals hug in and slightly lift up, rib cage tucking down, and then lifting the crown of your head up towards the sky. And we'll just begin by stretching out through our neck, so you can just drop one ear towards the shoulder. So I have my left ear dropping towards my left shoulder, keeping the chin roughly parallel to the ground. See if you can push and press your right shoulder down a little bit more. So just stretching into the side of your neck. You can close your eyes here, taking a few deep breaths. Breathing in and out through your nose. Try to really relax your jaw. And you might reach and crawl out with your right fingertips to intensify the sensation in the pose. Notice if you've begun slouching or rounding, come back to that proper postural alignment. And start to roll your chin down towards your shoulder. And roll all the way down, chin to chest. Linger here for a moment or so. Really roll your shoulders back. And let's lift the chin and the head back up. We'll just go to the other side. Drop your other ear towards your other shoulder. Start with the chin slightly leveled. So a little bit lifted. You might find that you have more range of motion on one side versus the other. This is true for any asymmetrical pose in yoga. All of us tend to have a side of our body that is more flexible, that is stronger, that is easier to balance in. This is totally normal. But over time, we'll try to find a little bit more balance. And you can crawl your left fingertips out to the side, just intensifying for a few more breaths here. Try not to clench your teeth. Slow, steady breaths, and start to tuck your chin down towards the shoulder, and then roll. So chin is down towards your chest. Take a breath here. And lift all the way up. Let's reach our arms all the way up towards the sky. Bring your hands or just the fingertips even together to touch. And as you exhale, press the arms down. 2 more like this. Inhale. So following rhythm with breath. Exhale to release. Inhale to lift up into a twist. You're going to bring your left hand to your right knee, right hand behind you. Again, eliminate any slouching from your spine. Think of lifting up a little taller. So your hips are still facing forward. You're really just trying to rotate through your spine, pulling that right shoulder back. And now keep your left hand on your knee, but face forward once more, and you're going to reach your right arm all the way up and lean it over. So grabbing a hold of your knee should help you feel a deeper sensation through the right side of your waist. And try to relax your neck and your head here. No tension. And coming all the way up, let's change the cross of the legs. So bring your other foot in front, or your other shin in front. Same thing. Inhale, circle the arms up, maybe look up. Exhale, press it down. 2 more like this with your breath. Last one, inhale into your twist as you exhale, right hand to your left knee, left fingertips behind you. And you can use the leverage of your palms holding onto your knee and the left fingertips behind you to rotate a little bit more. But if you find that you have a hard time taking deep breaths here, you've gone too far into the pose. So breath is always the highest priority. Keep the hold of your right hand on your left knee, face forward, and let's move into a side bend. So left arm reaches up and over this time. Soften down here. And let's come all the way back up. Now go ahead and straighten and extend your right leg out to the side and bring your left foot in a little bit closer towards that inner thigh. Into your side bend again here. Left arm reaches all the way up overhead. Same thing as what we had done before. Think of rolling your left shoulder back. Lengthen and reach out through your left fingertips a little more. And then come all the way back up. You're going to plant that left hand down, reach your right arm up and over and push into the legs in order to lift your hips off the ground. So a little bit of a back bend here. And set your hips down. Now facing over towards that right leg, we're going to fold down. So you don't need to really worry about grabbing and pulling and pushing. Just go to whatever your best edge, what your limit is here. So really your breath will let you know if a pose is not appropriate for you or if you're going too far, pushing too much. Just starting to wake up those hamstrings, crawl the fingertips out a little bit more. And let's come all the way back up. Now from here, we'll take a seated twist. So twisting even deeper, you're going to cross your right foot over the top of your left thigh. You might need to rearrange yourself a little bit here so that both sit bones can be grounded on the mat. And we want to push into our big right toe to lift that knee up nice and high. Think of squeezing and lifting. Inhale, left arm up. And now exhale, hook your elbow to the inner thigh crease. Once more, bring your right hand back behind you and open through your chest. So now you have even more leverage with the help of your elbow pushing into the thigh. Lift up through your chest, no slouching. This is a variation of Chandrasana pose. Big breath here. And let's release. Okay, bring your hands back behind you and see if you can lift your left leg. So your left foot is flat on the mat with the knee bent and you're crossing your right ankle over the top of that left knee. And you might just sway a little bit side to side, just getting into the glutes. So the closer you have your foot in towards you and the more you lift your chest, the deeper you're going to feel this. You can make the pose a lot easier by walking your hand out and leaning further back. So just checking to see how that right hip is feeling, stretching out into the glutes. And let's release. So this time, right foot will come in, stretch your left leg out. So you want to feel that leg open up to the side. We begin with our side bend first, so not worrying too much about the hamstrings. Right arm stretches up and over. Think of rolling your right shoulder back. So there's a nice lift. And finding our baby wild thing, come up. You're going to plant your right hand back behind you. Swing that left arm up and back. Press your hips forward. Little back bend. Big counter stretch. As if someone was pulling your left hand and your left foot away from one another. And now as you set your hips down, you're going to face over towards that straight left leg, and you're going to find your fold. So folding any amount, let go of expectation and judgment of yourself in the pose, especially at the beginning of class. We tend to be a lot tighter. This is totally normal. And if these kinds of movements and poses are new to you, it's probably not going to feel super easy the first few times, or even the first few dozens of times that you do it. Just appreciate the effort you're putting into it. Stay with your breath. And let's start to lift all the way back up into our twist. So this time you're going to cross your left foot over the top of your right thigh. You want to have your big left toe pushing into the ground, both hips anchored to the floor. And as you pull that thigh in, we're going to reach the right arm up and then hook your elbow to that inner thigh, left fingertips behind you as you rotate a little bit more. And the more you can feel your lower abdominals hugging in, the deeper you'll probably find yourself in this twist. The emphasis is on length first, and then on rotation. And release to face forward. We'll find that seated pigeon pose. So you want to just cross your left ankle over the top of your right knee, and then choose the distance that you want to have here. Try to keep your chest slightly lifted, your shoulders rolling down and back, and just swaying a little bit. Again, you might notice that one side feels a little easier, a little more open than the other. We'll work through those in time. And let's release. Okay, tabletop pose on hands and knees. So place your palms under your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, and spread your fingertips wide. Moving through cat and cow. As you inhale, drop your belly, curl tailbone up, and lift your gaze. As you exhale, reverse this motion, dropping the tailbone, dropping the head. And keep going a few times here with the flow of your breath. Now, super important is that you start practicing your weight distribution in your hands. Don't let it go all into the palm and into the wrist. Really try to push into your fingertips and into your knuckles. Take one more full cycle here, warming up the spine. Inhale, drop your belly down. Exhale, round and contract. And now come back to a neutral tabletop pose. Squeeze and contract your abdominals. Try to be flat in your low back here, nice and straight. And you're going to lift your right leg up, keeping your flat back, and see if you can just trace some big circles with your right knee and right hip without bending your left elbow and without collapsing here. Take a few more. One more big circle, and then you're going to step that foot forward to the top of the mat on Janiasana Low Lunge. So low lunge, we want our right knee to be directly over the top of our ankle. And I'm going to keep fingertips down to the floor, especially for this first one. Big stretch into the psoas, into your hip flexors. Try to let your hips be heavy, but still activating and engaging through the legs as if you're trying to squeeze them towards the middle of your mat. Start to lift your gaze up a little bit more, rolling your shoulders back. And then plant your left hand flat to the floor. Bring your right hand to your thigh and push the palm into the thigh as we twist once more. So progressively getting a little bit deeper into our spinal rotations. Looking over your right shoulder. And facing forward to the top of the mat, go ahead and push into your right heel as you send your hips back and straighten that right leg. And you might need to wiggle that foot a little bit further out in front of you if you feel like your stance is a little bit too narrow. And if the fingertips don't quite reach the floor, you can do this one from higher up and just work at tilting here. You can also absolutely bend your knee. Don't worry about being super straight here. Think of pulling your heart forward, pushing firmly into that right heel. And let's bend into that front knee. Plant your palms, come back to your tabletop pose, strong through your core, and extend your right leg up and back. Roll your right hip down so the front of your thigh and the front of your shin face the floor. Pull through your lower belly, and if you'd like to go further, extend your left arm up. Bicep along the ear, try to keep your right elbow straight. We're just gonna hold here. This is a challenging pose, two-legged table. If you fall out, don't worry about it, and you can always bring your left hand back to the floor. Squeeze into your glutes. And now let's point through the back foot. Let your left hand come down, and you're gonna tap the right toes down, and then squeeze and lift them back up. And we're gonna do 8 of those. So for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Tabletop, press your hips back towards your heels. Bring your big toes together to touch. Child's pose, Balasana. Just taking about 3 breaths here before we repeat on the other side. You might feel some activation in your glutes and in your thighs. We're starting to ramp things up a little bit. And let's lift back up, tabletop pose on hands and knees. Cat and cow as you inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, tailbone up. Exhale, round and contract. Get this in your upper back as much as your lower back. Take 2 more cycles. Follow your own rhythm, breath and movement. Fully synced up. And find your neutral tabletop pose. Squeeze and engage through your abdominals. So really strong core here. And we're just going to take some circles with the left hip and left knee. And it's normal to lean on the right a little bit here, but try to keep some weight in your left palm and try not to bend your right elbow. Last one, on Janiasana, your low lunge. So the left foot steps forward. You can always grab a hold of your heel to help it along. Make sure your knee is directly over the top of your heel. And you can come up onto the fingertips here, trying to press the hips forward and down and lift our gaze up. Big stretch into that right hip and right thigh. And flatten your right palm to the floor. Bring your left hand to your thigh and push the palm into your leg as you rotate to twist. So it's almost like you're trying to look over your left shoulder. Push into your big left toe. Notice if you're rolling on the outer edge of that left foot. And facing down into our half splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. Send your hips back. And again, you might need to readjust the stance here by wiggling that left foot further forward. And you can come up onto your fingertips or lift up your chest with your hands on your hips. Slide your shoulder blades down your back. You can always bend into your left knee if needed. We're setting up for that 2-legged tabletop pose. Bend into your front knee. Step back, tabletop, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips, and reach your left leg up and back. Roll your left hip down, so an internal hip rotation. Draw your belly in, flatten out your lower back as if you were balancing a teacup here, and then maybe extend your right arm forward if you want to strengthen through your back even more. This is also a core strengthening pose. So anything that requires balance will be really good for your abs. Keep reaching out and long. And now right hand comes down to the floor, point your left toes, and you're gonna tap the toes down and lift it back up. 7 more. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Balasana, child's pose. Big toes together. This time you might want to widen your knees even more for your wide like a child's pose. As you press your hips towards your heels, stretch your arms out in front of you and fold down. 5 full deep belly breaths right here in the pose. One more full breath. And now walk your hands back towards you. Bring your knees hip width distance apart and just see if you can tuck your toes underneath you as you sit your hips on your heels. This is a big stretch through the soles of the feet. We're going to inhale, reach the arms up, and then exhale, right arm forward, left arm back. Think of pushing your palms down to the floor. Inhale to lift. Exhale, other side, left arm forward, right arm back. A few more like this. Inhale and exhale. Lifting up and pressing down. One more on each side. You got this. Inhale and exhale. Last one. Left arm forward. Come all the way back through to center and release. Let's find our first downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So from tabletop, see if you can walk your hands a couple inches past your shoulders. Keep spreading your fingertips wide and digging into the mat with your fingertips. Tuck your toes under and lift your hips up and back. So you can alternate here by bending one knee, straightening the opposite leg. So depending on where you have the most tightness in your body, you'll probably feel it more there. So for me, I feel this a lot at the back of my knees and in my calves, but you might feel this more in your shoulders, in your hamstrings, maybe even in your wrists, in your upper back. But think of getting your entire body engaged. So finding your neutral downward dog, both knees can bend a little bit. Think of curling your tailbone up towards the sky and pressing your chest towards your thighs. All right, let's walk our feet forward to the top of the mat for our Ragdoll Fold. So your feet can be wider than your hips. You can bend your knees generously here. Hold onto the elbows and maybe sway a little bit side to side. Really let yourself dangle. So don't worry so much about your hamstrings. Instead, think of this as decompression for your spine. And come back towards the center. Release your hands down to the mat. You're going to bend your knees a little bit more here and toe heel your feet so they're only hip width distance towards one another. So a little bit of space between your feet, between your shins, between your knees. Sink your hips down as low as possible and lift up into your chair pose, Utkatasana. We'll start with our hands at our heart. So as you find this pose, because our feet are hip width, you might notice that your knees buckle and touch one another. Try to keep a gap there. Lengthen your tailbone down, drop your belly in, and we're just going to pulse. So dropping down a little bit. It really doesn't take a long time to feel the heat build up in your thighs and in your glutes. Get most of your weight in your heels. We are not here for a very long time. Just a few more pulses. You got this. And press all the way up to stand. Good job. Release your hands down, palms shining forward. So draw your belly in, lengthen your tailbone down, open through your heart. Circle your arms up overhead and grab a hold of your right wrist with your left hand and find a side bend here. So as if you're trying to pull on your right hand with your left, push into your right hip. Come all the way back to center. Let's switch sides. Hold on to your left hand with the right. Crescent over. And all the way back through to center. Release your arms, hands on your hips. We're going to come into tree pose, Vrikshasana. So lean on your right leg and you're going to bring your left foot somewhere along the inside of that leg. So it might just be on the shin with your toes down on the floor. You might go up higher to the calf or up higher even towards the inner right thigh. So regardless of the one that you've chosen, think of pressing that left knee open and try to avoid placing any direct pressure on your knee. You want to feel that supporting leg push into your foot as you hug into the midline and lift up a little taller. Once you feel balanced, you might play with reaching your arms up, so growing the branches of your tree. Slow, steady breaths. You got this. Keep your gaze steady. Wobbling is normal. And just start to bring your hands together. Lower them at the front of the heart, Anjali Mudra. And let's release the left foot, shake it out. Now keep your right foot exactly where it is and you're gonna step your left leg as far back as you can. You want your feet to be hip width distance apart for your high lunge, Ashta Chandrasana. As you're bending into that right knee, so I have a very sway back and I have tightness in my hips. So when I do this, you'll notice I kind of let my belly drop and my tailbone lifts up. This is not what we want. So if you have a sway back also, you'll want to bend into your back knee a little bit so that you can scoop the abs under and lengthen your tailbone down. So my hips should be directly underneath my shoulders. Bending into the front knee, trying to get your front thigh parallel to the top of the mat. Reach your arms up. And now, just like what we did in our chair pose, see if you can find some tiny little pulses. I know you can feel this one. I can feel it too. And you know, just because classes are meant for beginners really does not mean that they are easy. It just means they're accessible. But we're still challenging ourselves. Okay, hands at the heart, start to tilt forward until you can bring your fingertips down to the mat and find plank pose. Step your right foot back to meet the left. From here, drop your right knee to the floor, roll to the inner edge of your left foot, and see if you can extend your left arm up. So left shoulder is over the right, left hip is over the right. This is a variation of side plank Vashisthasana. And point your left toes. If you can, you're gonna inhale to lift the left foot off the floor. Exhale to tap it down. We're gonna do 8 of those. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Look down to the mat. From this tabletop pose, we'll take puppy. Walk your palms out in front of you so my hips stay over my knees. I'm just walking my hands out and melting the forehead and the chest down towards the mat. So big stretch into your shoulders, into your upper back, into your chest. Think of pulling your lower belly in a little bit. And let's ripple forward into Sphinx Pose. So you're laying on your belly. Forearms are on the ground in order to lift your chest up. Think of rolling your shoulders back. And as you exhale, lower all the way down. Now we're going to extend our arms out in front of us, palms facing in towards one another. Keep the back of your neck long, so you don't need to really look up too much here. Your feet should be about hip width distance apart. As you inhale, alternate by lifting your right arm, your left leg, and your head off the floor. Exhale to lower down and switch. Inhale. Left arm, right leg lifts, and release. 2 more on each side. Inhale, right arm, left leg. Exhale down. Inhale, left arm, right leg. And lower. Once more. Inhale. And exhale. Last one. And release. Let's press back to an easy child's pose. So this time, keep your knees together, feet together. Reach your arms back towards your feet, forehead down to the floor. And you can just rock a little bit side to side. And let's find our downward facing dog from here, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So hands are shoulder width distance apart, middle and index fingers pointing towards the top of the mat. Feet are hip width distance apart as you lift your hips up and back. And you might notice that maybe the heels are getting a little bit closer towards the mat. Don't worry if they're not. Again, can you press your chest towards your thighs? Relax your neck, let your head be heavy. And as you pull your navel in, think of curling your tailbone up towards the sky. Let's find our Ragdoll Fold at the top of the mat. Walk your feet forward. As many little steps as you need here. Your feet can be wider than your hips. You can bend your knees so that your chest and belly are kind of dangling over your thighs. And maybe hold on to your opposite elbows and sway a little side to side. And release your hands to the floor. Bend your knees a little more so you can narrow your stance. You want your feet and your knees hip width distance apart, not quite touching. Bend down as low as possible. We're coming up Utkatasana, chair pose. So just like in that lunge, think of lengthening your tailbone down, squeezing through your abs, hands at your heart. And we're just going to pulse. You know where we're going with this. So strengthening our lower body. Rock your weight back into your heels. And this is temporary, I promise. Not here for too long. Just pulse, 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 and come all the way up to stand. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Lengthen tailbone down, draw your belly in, open through your chest. Just close your eyes here. Feeling this heat you've created. And as you circle your arms up overhead, grab a hold of your left wrist with your right hand. Find a side bend. Inhale to center, and we'll switch sides. Grab a hold of your right wrist and crescent. Coming all the way back, and let's release. Okay, you're gonna lean on your left leg this time, Vrikshasana tree pose. Bring your right foot anywhere that is appropriate to you to the inside of that left leg. Your toes can always stay down on the floor. We're working on rotating that right hip, so pressing that knee open, hugging everything in towards the midline. And try as much as possible not to dig your toes in the floor. It doesn't really help. And when you're feeling centered, you might lift your arms up overhead. Try to maintain a point of focus. Don't worry if you fall out. It is really no big deal. Balance is really fickle. Some days it might be easier, other days it's just not meant to be. And that is true whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Start to bring your hands together at the front of your heart. And let's release, shake it out. Hands on your hips, we're gonna find our high lunge. So keep your left foot as it is and step the right foot as far back as you can get it with your feet hip-width distance apart. So big lunge here. You wanna bend that front knee, get it over that second and third toe. No wobbling side to side. And if there's a big curve in your low back, trying to minimize this by bending also into your back knee, getting your pelvis directly underneath your shoulders. Arms reach up overhead. And little pulses. We've been here before. Just really small, deeper bends into that front knee. So down, 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 down for 4, 3, 2, 1, and lean all the way forward until your palms can come down to the floor. Plank pose. Step your left foot all the way back, and you're going to drop your left knee and shin to the floor. Roll to the inner edge of your right foot and start to reach your right arm up to the sky, stacking one shoulder over the other. Feel that left shoulder draw down and back, so you're really stable here. And you can point into your right toes. As you inhale, see if you can lift the right foot up. Exhale, tap the toes down. 7 more. Inhale and down for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Tabletop pose into your puppy stretch. Keep your hips over your knees. Walk your hands forward. I'll give you another option this time if you'd like. You can press your hands together and bend your elbows so you're bringing your thumbs towards the back of your neck, back of your head. If this hurts in any way, please leave it out and keep your arms extended. We're using this as an opportunity to catch our breath, to slow our heart rates. If you had your elbows bent, straighten them again, and let's find Sphinx Pose. So laying on your stomach, stretching your legs back behind you. Push into the fingertips and knuckles in order to lift up, and think of almost pressing and dragging your heart forward. And exhale, release. Extend your arms out in front of you, palms facing in towards one another. We'll do 3 rounds of that same thing we did before. Back of the neck is long. So as you inhale, left arm, right leg, and head come up. Exhale to lower down. Inhale, switch, right arm, left leg. Exhale to lower. 2 more on each side. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. 1 more on each side. Lift and lower. Last one. Breathe in. Calm down, and let's press back. Easy child's pose. Keep your knees and your toes together. Balasana. Arms reach back. And maybe swaying a little bit side to side. Let's stretch our arms out. Downward facing dog. We're not going to be here for too long, really just to transition. Hands shoulder width distance apart. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up and back. Push into your heels. Paddle out the feet. Long through your arms. And we'll find our Ragdoll Fold again. Walk your feet forward. Let your body dangle. Release your hands to the floor. Bend your knees generously and push into your heels to roll up inch by inch. Take your time here. So head and shoulders are the last to make their way up. Tadasana, mountain pose, palms facing forward. All right, from this pose, I'm gonna turn to face you guys. You can just take a big step. You want your feet really wide or your legs really wide with your feet parallel towards the shorter edges of your mat. Make sure your toes and your heels are in that same long line. We can start with our hands on our hips. Think of activating and pulling up through your quads to lift up and lead with your heart, coming into our forward fold. So your hips go back just a little bit as you start to fold on down. And then maybe you release your palms down towards the mat and drop your head. So big stretch into our hamstrings, into our hips. You might find that you need to readjust your stance a little bit. And just walk your hands a little bit over more towards the right and see if you can bend your right knee. Keep your left leg straight. So just sinking it down. And let's straighten the right leg. We'll do that same thing on the other side. Walk your hands a little bit more to the left and bend your left leg. Keep your right leg straight. And press that left leg straight. Walk your hands to center. Walk your hands forward so you can lift your chest so you're about halfway parallel to the mat. And now turn your heels in, toes out. So your toes are pointing towards the top corners of your mat. Similar to what we've just done, but going a little deeper, walk your hands to the right and see if you can bend your right knee and lift up your left toes. This is Skandasana, like a side lunge. So you might be staying up here nice and high, working on pressing that right knee open. Or if you can always drop all the way down. So try not to worry about here how low you're getting towards the floor. We'll start to push up and switch sides. So walk your hands over to the left, start to bend into your left knee, and now curl your right toes off the floor. Maybe you just work the pose from here, or you can lower your hips down further towards the mat. And we'll come all the way up and back through to center. Turn both feet parallel to the shorter edges of your mat. Fold one last time. Now to come out of this one, you need to walk your hands out in front of you, lift your chest again, bring your hands to your hips, push your feet into the ground and come all the way up. Now keep your left foot as it is, parallel to the back of your mat, and pivot so your right toes are pointing towards the front edge of your mat. Start to bend into that right knee and squeeze it open. You might need to widen your stance a little bit. This is our Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. As you bend into your right knee, you're squeezing it open while also pressing your left hip back. So there's a lot going on here. Slow, steady breath, sink down a little bit deeper. And let's straighten the right leg. We'll go right away to the other side. So pivot and turn your right toes in so they're now parallel to the front of your mat. And turn your left toes so they're pointing to the back of your mat. Same thing. This time we bend into our left knee. Squeeze that left knee open, push your right hip back at the same time. So a big tension of opposites here. Palms facing towards the floor. Gaze forward, past your left hand, and sink down even more into it. And press and lift it up, hands on your hips. Turn your heels in, toes out. So just like what we had before, toes pointing towards the top corners. This is your star pose, reaching out with your arms. And now bend the elbows, bend both knees. So what tends to happen here is the knees want to buckle in. Try to squeeze your glutes to push them out and squeeze your shoulder blades behind you. Inhale, straighten everything, star. Exhale, goddess pose, sink it down. 2 more like this. Inhale and exhale. Last one. And exhale, stay in this deep squat. Bring your hands on top of your knees. You can kind of let yourself relax in this one and see if you can drop one shoulder down, pull the other one back. And switch sides. Left shoulder down, right shoulder back. Opening those inner thighs up even more. Come back through to center. Push all the way up. Look to the top of the mat and step on up. Mountain pose. Let's take our flow. Inhale, arms rise. Exhale, fold all the way down. You can absolutely bend your knees here. Take a halfway lift, flat back, so fingertips come onto your shins, and lift your chest up so you're parallel to the ground. Rock your weight forward into the balls of your feet. Exhale, release, plank pose, palms under your shoulders, step the feet back, strong through your core. Lower all the way down to your belly. Point your toes back, Bhujangasana Cobra Pose. Push your hands into the floor and really engage the muscles in your back. Keep your elbows in, lift through your chest. Exhale to lower, downward facing dog. Press and lift all the way up. This is our last downward dog. Make any movements and adjustments here that feel good. Lift the tailbone up even higher. And let's bring our knees down to the floor. Swing your legs out in front of you and bring your legs all the way out. Walk forward towards the top of the mat. So with your legs straight, go ahead and flex your feet so you're curling your toes back towards you. We're gonna work a little bit more on core strength into our glutes, and then we're really gonna stretch everything out and relax and prepare for our final resting pose. But we're not there yet, so reach your arms out in front of you, and like you're kind of rolling in towards it. So draw the belly in and lower about halfway, and then come all the way back out. So exhale, tuck it in, lower just a little bit. Inhale, lift it back. Two more like this. Exhale. Inhale. Last one. All right, bend into your knees. Hold on to the back of your thighs and roll all the way down. See if you can walk your hands back slowly with control. And all the way down. Great job. Okay, go ahead and lift your shins and your feet off the floor. Try to stack your knees directly over the top of your hips. Hug in through the inner thighs. Push your lower back into the floor, and usually that makes your knees come forward towards your chest. Try to keep your lower back glued to the mat and realign your knees over your thighs. You're gonna feel this one. Interlace your fingers behind the back of your head. As you inhale, curl head and shoulders off towards the mat, and then exhale, just lower head and shoulders down. So nice and simple. Inhale, curl and lift. Exhale, lower down. A few more. Inhale up, keep your elbows open. Exhale, lower down. Try to lift both shoulder blades off the floor. Squeeze. Exhale to release. Last one here. Inhale, lift it up. And exhale to release. Bring your feet flat to the floor, about hip width distance apart, and you almost want to be able to touch your heels with your fingertips. Roll your shoulders down and away from you. Palms facing up to the sky. Squeeze into your glutes, push into your heels, and lift up into your bridge pose. Setubanda, Sarvangasana. So notice if your knees are splaying open and wide. Try to hug in towards the midline. And you can kind of use your arms pushing into the floor to find a bit more lift here. But relax your neck and your jaw. And carefully roll down inch by inch. Draw your knees in towards your belly. Give it a big squeeze. Maybe rock a little bit side to side. So one more time, let's interlace our fingers behind the back of the head, and this time straighten and lift your legs straight up towards the ceiling. As you inhale, lift head and shoulders off the mat, and then exhale, drop the left leg to hover a few inches off the floor. Inhale, curl and lift it back up. Exhale, head and shoulders come down. Okay, so adding on a little here. Inhale, reach through your toes, lift up. Exhale, right leg hovers a few inches off the mat. Inhale, lift everything up higher. Exhale, lower down. One more on each side. Inhale, squeeze and lift. Exhale, left leg comes down. Inhale, left leg goes back up. Exhale to release. Last one, curl up. Right leg down to hover. Right leg back up. And release. Bring your feet flat to the floor again. We're coming back into that bridge pose. Roll and shrug your shoulders down. Push into your feet and lift your hips up nice and high. Hugging in through your inner thighs. Think of digging down into your heels and dragging them back towards your shoulders. Really active here. And uncurling, inch by inch, release it down. Very similar to what we did at the beginning of class. Go ahead and cross your right ankle over the top of your left knee. Press that right thigh away from you. This might be enough. If you'd like to go further, you can reach with your arms, holding on either to the back of your left hamstrings or back of your thigh or the front of your knee as you pull that left thigh in. So we have worked hard, and now we get to stretch and relax. Try to soften your shoulders and your neck. And taking longer, slower breaths. And give that leg one last little squeeze. And just set your left foot down. Hold on to the back of your right thigh. As you stretch up, you might slide your hands further up the leg here, just getting into the hamstrings one last time. Maybe flexing and pointing your toes. And bend into your right knee, straighten your left leg. And we'll carry this over into a twist. So as you pull that right thigh in, you can now cross your right knee over your body towards the left side of your mat. Stretch and reach your right arm out to the side. Try to keep your shoulder blades grounded. And at the same time, you're trying to stack your right hip over your left one. And come all the way back through to center. Bend into both knees. We'll find our reclined pigeon pose on the other side. Cross your left ankle over the top of your right knee. Press that left thigh away from you and maybe hold here. Or you can reach through, grab a hold of whatever you can as you pull your right knee into your belly. Keep head and shoulders on the mat. Making this as passive of a stretch as possible. So using as little muscular engagement as you can. Give it one last little squeeze. And set your right foot down to the floor and just get a nice hamstring stretch, holding onto the back of your left leg, wherever feels the best to you here. And flex and point through your left foot and left toes. Bend your left knee and go ahead and straighten your right leg out to the mat and really pull that left thigh in towards you. Carry it over into a twist so your left knee moves to the right. Stretch your left arm out. Try to push your left shoulder into the floor, stacking one hip over the other. One last big breath here. And come back to center. We finish with Savasana, our final resting pose. A well-deserved rest as you stretch out your arms and your legs. Take up some space here and close your eyes. So Savasana is the pose we do at the end of every class. You can think of it like digesting after a big meal. This is how your body is able to process and integrate all of the work that you've done. So we'll just have a few minutes here of silence and stillness. And if you're new to yoga, this might be challenging to just lay here and do nothing. But I really encourage you to let go as much as possible. Let your body be heavy and soft. And if you notice your mind beginning to wander, just bring your awareness back to this present moment. Maybe by just focusing on your breath. So a few minutes here, and then we'll come out and close. Start to deepen your breath, waking yourself up with a little bit of movement through your fingers and your toes. And you can stretch your arms up overhead, lengthen it out. And we'll roll to one side. Push your hands into the floor to come up and take a seat. Just sit in any way that's comfortable to you here for your hips and for your low back. Join your hands together at the front of your heart, Anjali Mudra. Close your eyes. And take a moment to really show yourself recognition. Be proud of the time you've made to put yourself first today, of the hard work and effort you've put on the mat. And hopefully you can feel some positive physical, mental, and emotional benefits as a result of your yoga practice today. Let's close with the chant of Om one time. Inhale to chant. Big breath in. Om. Bowing forward. Namaste. Thank you so much for doing this hour-long beginner practice with me. I would love to know how this went for you. If you would like to stay a little bit longer on your mat, I would recommend following this class up with this short meditation right here. If you're new, please subscribe to my channel. I put new classes out multiple times a week and would love to practice with you every single day. Thank you again. Namaste.